3, 2, 1.
That sounded good.
Yeah, it did.
Good job, Zach. Zach's a musician, so
you can always tell a musician from the clap sync.
I think I'm probably the least musically inclined in this chat, but yeah, I appreciate it.
Well, and Tony actually plays the clap, so that's unfair too.
See? Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, I can't compete with that.
I studied at Juilliard. Studied the clap at Juilliard.
Oh, boy.
All right. Well, once we start, I guess, Seth, I'll let you introduce Zach.
No, I want whatever your first impression is. I think that'll be better.
That's literally what every single person on here says. They never want me to, like, check with them first. They want to see what I'm going to say. And I'll try not to ruin your whole reputation.
Yeah, let's only use our knowledge of Zach. So one of us could be like, our guest today is Zach, a man who wandered into the video chat eating ice cream with some spooky balloons behind him.
They're blow molds. Come on, man.
We were playing chat roulette, and he was the first person not masturbating who came up. And so he's on the podcast.
Well, we can't see him masturbating.
I learned my lesson last time. Yeah.
Well, so, like, are you okay with us using your last name?
You can pretty much do whatever. My Twitter presence is pretty out there, so I really don't care about any of that. So you can go nuts.
Cool.
You can tell people where I live. I don't give a shit.
And this is you're like our horror expert. That's really your last name? Butcher?
that is my legal last name. Yeah, I was born into loving horror movies.
Yeah, that's great.
I've never considered that it could be a fake last name.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah, when I started my podcast, people always thought it was like a fake thing. They're like, "Oh, like spooky." And I was like, "No, that's just my name."
This is our good friend Zach Bloodshed.
That's right, yeah.
Horror expert.
Zach Slasher.
Hello and welcome to Unwatchables, your podcast dad, here to judge the intentions of your most difficult and unpleasant movie boyfriends. I am Marc Dottavio.
I'm Seth Troyer.
And today we're covering the new French Extremity, a wave of some of the most extreme and graphically violent horror films ever to come out of France that also inspired the 2000s explosion of torture porn in the US. We are going to focus on Alexandre Aja's blood-soaked 2003 slasher High Tension and Pascal Logis' 2008 ode to bodily suffering, Martyrs.
Can I call you Daddy, Mark?
Please.
That's not going to be the intro. Is that real?
Nothing but the best for my daughters. What do you mean, is that real?
The best for my daughters.
Oh, jeez.
Mark and his daughters.
And by the way, you've noticed I didn't even ask for opinions on how to pronounce these names. I've established it. There will be no discussion, and everyone is free to pronounce them however you want to.
Yeah, fucking ruin them because it's a bunch of white people. Who cares?
These are white people too. Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
You were talking about. This is all going to end up on the cutting room floor.
Wish.
So, all right, Seth, would you like to introduce our very special guest for this extreme episode?
Yeah, I knew I started hanging out on this podcast, Unwatchables, with extreme content, and there's an extreme person that I know in the Akron area who is a part of an extreme, I guess, is it hardcore? Would I call it a hardcore band, Zach?
Yeah, that's fine.
It's one of those hardcore bands, and it's specifically the lyrics are about horror films, giallo horror films, if I'm not mistaken. And he's the lead singer, screamer, as the kids say, screamer, and it's a scary onslaught of hardcoreness. And he has also run various, like over COVID, kept me going with these movie showings over Discord of just like silly. Some of them were silly. There was like the Danzig movie that you showed, the one that Danzig directed and shit, and a bunch of horror movies. And you also like kind of did it like you were, kind of hosting it. It was really charming. It was fun. There was like old commercials that you would put in. You're just a genuine horror movie enthusiast, I can tell. And I've always appreciated that. And I knew we had to have you on for one of our horror movie episodes. So do you want to rebuttal or correct me on any of what I just said?
Did you say
Yeah,
our guest's
I'm kind
name?
of bummed. I thought, no.
Is that just going to be a mystery?
Oh yeah.
You said my first name, so that's
I
fine.
buried the
That's good
lead.
enough.
His last name is Butcher. Butcher. And it's not fake. It's
That's
a
true.
real last name.
Zach Butcher.
It's legal,
It's
baby.
legal.
That's right.
He's a legal killer.
So we legally had to have him on this episode.
I thought we were going to be covering the Yu-Gi-Oh movie, but yeah, this is fine too. I like High Tension. I've seen Martyrs. This is all well and good.
Didn't you say you were going to
All
write
right.
a song about high tension or something?
Yeah, that's the plan. That's for the next album.
Hell yeah. What name like
gotta
what are
plan
two
ahead.
other movies you've written like songs about?
New York Ripper and Angst.
Oh, Angst is on
Angst.
our list.
I'm a big Angst.
I
Ooh, that's a
fan.
nasty one.
I don't even know what it is.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Well, I like that this intersection between hardcore music and horror seems to happen a lot, or with heavy metal, I guess.
We talk about it a lot
Yeah.
on a lot of the movies, like, and sometimes it's because there's like big like horror elements or like gross bloody shit happening, and other times it is just like, I don't know, just like the bludgeoning emotion, the cathartic feeling. Like, yeah, like oftentimes I wind up describing a lot of these movies as being kind of like metal, in that it's like it's supposed to be off-putting. It is you like it for a host of different reasons than you would like something that is actually like pleasing in just a regular aesthetic sort of way. And I find that kind of great that we do that. We like dark shit. We like things that hurt. And a lot, especially Martyrs, has a lot to do with that sort of idea of pleasure and pain and ecstasy and darkness.
I think High Tension has a lot of hurt in it. It's just a different kind
That's
of hurt.
true. It's romantic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I, growing up, I was super into horror movies, and still, I mean, kind of am, but especially when I was like younger, that was always the like aisle at the video store that I ran to first. And I remember seeing a lot of these movies, or movies like these, like in the early 2000s. There was always some sort of grisly horror movie you could go see in the theaters that I think was inspired by a lot of these movies, and in some cases even crossed over to play here. So this is, I'm somewhat well versed, I think, in this scene, but probably not as much as Zach is.
Oh, I'm honored. I can't wait to like have a stroke, and the only thing I can say is just like the same thing over and over.
You Sam?
It'll be good. It'll be the worst episode you've ever had.
Yeah. Well, speaking
right.
of like,
That's what I'll say. Yeah, I'll say
yeah. Speaking of
That would only be the
early
best or worst
2000s
episode.
like horror, isn't Aja the director of High Tension? He did the Hills Have Eyes remake. And like,
Yes.
Yeah, he had a strange like little thing. He did High Tension, and people seemed to really like it, and they were like, come make movies in America, and they just kept giving him things that would get progressively worse. It was the Hills Have Eyes remake, and then Mirrors and P2.
oh,
I think he did Crawl. Crawl wasn't
I liked
bad.
Crawl, Crocodile Core.
Yeah.
He's one of...
Hills Have Eyes remake was fine. I'm sorry. Please.
Oh, yeah, I'm just saying he was definitely one of the directors from this wave of films who's still like in Hollywood making movies, and genre movies for the most part. So
yeah.
I think that's why that's a good movie to start with. I didn't really know the origins of like where this whole term came from of New French Extremity, but this was actually a term that was coined in an article by a critic named James Quant for Art Forum magazine in 2004. And he just threw it into this article, which is now, the title of the Wikipedia page, and what the whole, kind of trend was called. And so I read this article, which is very long and dense, and basically just focuses on this trend in the early 2000s of just really extreme content sneaking into these French movies with a really graphic focus on bodies being, mutilated and in physical suffering and taboos. And not just in terms of horror. He was specifically talking about French filmmakers like Francois Ozon and Bruno Dumont, and then started bringing in some people we've even talked about on this podcast, like Michael Haneke. He mentions Gaspar Noé and Irreversible.
Sure.
And then very specifically one that we fully covered on here, which is Trouble Every Day, that I think fits right into this too, which we were not a fan of on this podcast. But it was interesting to see that being the kind of beginnings of this, not so much a movement, because they weren't really all under the same umbrella or with an ethos, but I think that you could see it start to seep over into the US with movies like Saw and Hostel, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake from 2003.
I still never got through that
brutal
one.
movies.
So mean.
Yes, mean. These movies are very mean.
They're very mean. They had to keep up with the Japanese got their extreme. What are we gonna do here in France? I like how I didn't give them the accent. But yeah, gotta keep up.
Yeah, and go ahead.
There was a big push for that, just especially like with the Hollywood approach of what can we take from the Japanese, what can we take from the French and like their movements, and what can we do here? And it seemed like 80% of them were remakes of either really well-known or like B-grade movies. Like you had the Texas Chainsaw remake, you had the Hills Have Eyes remake, and then you would kind of go down the line into My Bloody Valentine, Friday the 13th, the Rob Zombie Halloween, and it was just kind of pushing this new thing of a modern approach, but a modern approach being how gross can we make it, because that's what we think people want. They moved further and further away from like the horror porn term, and then or torture porn, sorry. I was thinking about the porn parody thing earlier. The torture porn term, and moving further into this is what we think kids want. So, you've got the Texas Chainsaw remake where a girl pulls a gun out of her vagina, and then you move into the Halloween remake with, all the typical Rob Zombie tropes of white trash American people. And it ruined a lot of things, but I guess, there's also a lot of people that seem to really hold those near and dear. The Black Christmas remake, adding all that extra stuff.
Yeah, Wrong Turn.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I remember seeing that in the
some
theater.
of those getting those
for sure.
Yeah.
It is interesting.
And that's a good point.
Yeah, it's interesting that we like kind of now it seems like we're so far away from that anymore. Like everything is kind of fighting against that. It's like very much like spinning around like it's heady, man. It's A24 and it's about something this time, It's just
The
interesting to watch
trends
change in horror.
Yeah.
Definitely, because I remember, around when The Sixth Sense came out, it was all ghost and haunted house movies, and then after The Grudge and The Ring were so successful, it was all these J-horror remakes like those, and
right.
The Eye, all kinds of really bad movies, but not all just remakes. A lot of ones that just kind of kept that same spirit going. And then at one point, it was this thing that started with the new French Extremity, I want to say, that kind of migrated over here and turned into what we see as what was labeled at the time as torture porn, whether that's fair or not. And and now it's all elevated horror where everything is like a metaphor and a thesis about something. And I'm really hoping that that's wearing itself out now too. And we can maybe get back to, the inexplicable, or something that is more of an immediate threat and not just giant movie of, you know, symbolism and trauma. That would be great. But we'll see what's next. I don't know what the next thing will be.
I think us getting 5 Cream, like making fun of the elevated horror era, will hopefully mean that we'll get 2 or 3 more years of those knockoffs, and then we'll move into something else altogether.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to normally be how it goes. You know, Scream came out, and then there was all the Scream knockoffs, and then Scream 2 came out, and then all the shitty sequels, you know, continuing and reaching this legacy era of, you know, fucking Texas Chainsaw 2020, Halloween 2018.
Ooh,
I think once
all
Scream
garbage.
parodies it, you can kind of move into something else.
Mm-hmm.
I liked Halloween 2018 well enough. Texas Chainsaw 2020 I was not real into.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
I decided to skip that one.
Yeah, I just heard people like pooping all over that thing.
I think Texas Chainsaw 2020 was also like 75 or 80 minutes. Like, it was very short.
Oh, I kind of like that, actually. It's weird.
Yeah.
Weird move.
Yeah, it was interesting. But I'm also in the minority. I think 2 and Next Generation are the only 2 that are actually worth watching.
Whoa.
So,
you're not into the first one.
big fans.
Oh, you're so hardcore. This is why you're in a
Wow, hot
hardcore
take.
band. That's a hot take.
I hate
Sizzle.
this. I hate
Sizzling.
this.
Sizzling. Oh, damn.
Oh boy, well, I can't wait to get the takes on these movies.
Well, this movie's kind of short. It's like 90 minutes on the dot or something. It kind of breezes by in a way that, like, throwing up breezes by.
Yeah. Well, yeah, when I was you know, looking at this whole scene, there was a film blogger, Matt Smith, who basically singled out 5 movies as being part of this new wave of French horror. And the earliest one is High Tension from 2003. It includes other ones, like a movie called Them from 2006, which is kind of a strangers type story with mysterious people showing up outside somebody's house. Another one,
It's a real good movie.
Yeah, another one called Frontiers, and another one called Inside, which actually I might have pushed for us to include on this episode, except I have plans for that in a future episode with a different theme. And then at the end of that is Martyrs in 2008. So I thought these would be good picks because they kind of go in the beginning and then the tail end of these kind of movies. And High Tension in particular, as far as I know, is the only one that got a wide release in the United States. And I remember seeing it in the theater when it came out in 2003.
Oh, see, I never saw it in the theater, but it really struck me anytime I would see it at, like, Family Video or something when it came out, like on DVD. I just remember being like, really, like, whoa, that's like, it was just such a haunting image to me because I was a big old wimpy kid and I was like not ready in, like, whenever this came out at, like, video stores and stuff to watch something like this. But it was just wild to see this woman on the cover with a slashed, fucked up face with a fucking concrete saw and just blood on the wall behind her, and just, like, wondering, like, what could even be inside this movie. And it was like also, like, the first time I felt like I had seen, like, something like that, where it's like it's a kind of a pretty young woman who is gonna kill me. Whoa. Striking.
Whoa.
Who
Yeah,
knew?
and it actually, this movie's probably the reason that we didn't see more experiments with releasing these movies in the theaters in the US, because it screened at the Midnight Madness series at the Toronto International Film Festival, and Lionsgate picked it up. They spent like $14 million in advertising and putting it out there, and then it only made $3.6 million. And I think part of the problem was that, first of all, they dubbed it into English very poorly. I remember watching it in the theater, and
I wondered
it was
about that.
a very bad dubbing job. And then, strangely, there were all these places where it still had subtitles. They would suddenly switch to the French, like when they were swearing or something, and then they would still be subtitles, and then we'd go back to the bad dubbing. and it was very distracting. And they also made a whole bunch of cuts to it to get an R rating. So hopefully anyone who's seen this movie today, it's on like the unrated DVD or Blu-ray release, because they did significantly trim some of the gore in it. And it's kind of funny watching it now, especially with the movies that would come soon after, like the Saw films and Hostel, where it seemed like there were no holds barred. Like it doesn't seem like anything that would have trouble getting an R rating today, or even a few years after this movie came out.
Sure.
But I guess they were concerned about it at the time. But it had a cool trailer with that Sonic Youth cover of the Carpenter song.
Oh yeah.
It was very enticing. There was no dialogue, tellingly, in the trailer. But yeah, that got me out to see it. And I was disappointed at the time, and I wasn't sure how much of that was chalked up to how it was presented. But yeah, interesting experiment.
The American trailer that I remember seeing pretty widely also spoils the end of the movie. And they were just like, "Oh yeah, it's fine."
Whoa, really?
Let's just promote it like that.
Oh Lord.
Oh my God.
So I'm not really sure how that went. I did not see it in 2003. I didn't see it until 2009. 2009, because I was entering high school, and I remember watching it, and it was terrifying.
It's terrifying. It still is.
Yeah.
Like, brings me back to an old kind of feeling when I would watch these movies for the first time after, again, like spending even my early teenage years avoiding horror films. And it was like my later teenage years where I finally actually started to watch them, and just like how intense it all was to finally be exposed to this kind of shit and like throw myself into the deep end with certain movies like this, which it's just like, it still gives me that like feeling like I'm just like gonna start sweating and like I'm gonna be sick or something. There is just such, it's an intense high tension going on. I was almost gonna say it without it being like a reference to the title, but it is.
I watched I think it was over Christmas. I watched The Boy Behind the Door on Shudder, and that was the first time in a long time that I'd felt that same feeling, like you're riding a roller coaster, like that like gut tension in your stomach.
Body feel.
Gut tension in your stomach. Ooh. Hell yeah.
I always thought that this was one of the stranger titles for a film, because I know it was released in the UK as Switchblade Romance, which I think is probably
which is way cooler.
A better title.
Oh, really? I love this title. I love the double meaning.
Almost a spoiler, but yeah, I don't know. It's like, do you want to watch a comedy that's called Really Funny? Like, it just seems just like a strange way to thing to put, because it doesn't refer to. Well, okay, maybe I guess there could be some way it refers to something in the film. This is one of those, we should just say up front, that has such a movie-defining twist at the end. It's kind of like talking about The Sixth Sense without getting right into the big twist. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel. I was thinking maybe we could talk about it for a little bit until we get to that point in the movie, and then we'll discuss the twist, maybe just to give a sense of what it's like to watch the first time without knowing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's fine by me.
But we'll have to get into it.
If you want to hear about Martyrs, you can like just scrub to the middle when the little circle goes to the middle of the line. Do that.
Sure, we'll give you a warning before we spoil the hell out of this movie.
Or just watch the trailer, like I said.
Oh, right.
I've been
don't
mad
do
about
that
it for a long time.
That's absurd. But yeah, so we talked a little about Alexandre Aja, who this was his like second film, and I think you can tell right away that he has just a really good eye. He makes very handsome films like this. I think the only ones I've seen, I did see The Hills Have Eyes remake and Piranha 3D, which I remember enjoying at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Piranha 3D is great.
Yeah, and I didn't even get to see it in 3D, which I really regret, but I still had fun with it at home.
See, yeah.
So he's a very capable director.
That is what gets me on this, and it's not the same director, but Martyrs as well. It seems to be like, at least with these two movies, I don't know if it goes throughout the French Extremity but a real close attention to color and mood with cinematography is such a big deal, and in a very different way than what we got in America, like as a result of these, which I feel like are very like kind of bland, kind of blue gray movies, where these have like a seem to have like a large palette. There's a lot going on, like, which was a real 2000s thing. I feel like there was like a lot going on like during the day sometimes when like fucked up shit is happening, like very illuminated. So you can see like the gore, you can see things. I don't know. I just really love this movie and Martyrs visually, especially when it comes to the way they showcase gore as like almost like the blood splattering being this like psychedelic light show or something almost, while still being like earthy and very gross and realistic.
Yeah, I think this filmmaker in particular is very influenced by those 70s movies like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like The Hills Have Eyes, which again he went ahead and remade, so there was clearly a personal connection there, which is interesting because, you know, those movies have very gritty, almost docu-realistic kind of feels to them, and almost in the same way that, you know, Rob Zombie is influenced by those movies, yet their films don't really look like them. It's these, I feel like Aja's films are much more polished, you know, and professional looking, even though they get really extreme with the gore. And it's interesting to see about like him and Rob Zombie. I could see like geeking out all night together about these 70s movies, yet their approaches are so different in how they incorporate those into their own style.
Yeah. I think that approach to the cinematography really helps the opening of this movie, which is supposed to sort of lull you into, I don't know, there's definitely a flashback at the beginning that foretells like, well, it's a flash forward or whatever you want to call it, but foretells that things are not going to go well. But at the same time, there is this beautiful opening where these two women are driving in a car together. It's they're like best friends, and they're going to the Marie's, I think it's Marie's house, family house, and there is it's just all shot so beautifully. It feels like a kind of just like a French art movie. At least like when I first saw it, I was just like, how is this going to turn into something that looks like the front cover of the movie? It seemed impossible. And it makes it even more like jarring when it finally does take that turn. I think it's really effective in that way, at least for like an American audience not used to that, I guess, especially during this time.
Well, and there's an opening before the opening, which actually both of these movies we're going to talk about open with the heroine running from something after having something terrible happening to them. And in this film, we kind of get her sitting in a chair and just saying over and over again, I won't let anyone come between us anymore, which turns out to be significant. But then they try to frame the flashback like it's a dream. They show her waking up in a car and saying, oh, I had a dream that someone was chasing me. But it is actually a flash forward. And again, I'm going to do my best not to talk yet about how that's all setting up this twist at the end. But
more sci-fi. Dream of the future? What the fuck? It's a sci-fi movie.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, until we get to that point, how about the introduction to this killer, huh? Where
what an absolute scene, dude. So this movie just got added to Shudder, I don't know, like a month ago maybe, and I saw it was on, and I was talking to my fiance Becca. I was like, oh, you love French stuff. Becca took French for most of high school, most of college. They're very invested in France as a whole, and I was like, this is part of the French extreme movement. This is a great crossover for you and I. And so I put the movie on, and I was like, the first time I saw this, it scared me really bad. And Becca was like, okay, I don't know if I really want to watch that, but all right. And then, the first 4 minutes, you get the pop song, you get them driving in the car. Becca's like, yep, okay. And then minute 5, that scene, and Becca was just like, you can turn this off at any point. I'm done. Like, I'm good.
Oh, that was the moment. yeah, so the scene comes right after that nice scene where it is like, which it begins the tension because you can kind of see. I mean, can you already
It's
see it?
low tension at this point.
I mean,
That's right. Yeah, we're
Low to medium tension
on the scale.
I guess that's my thing. I can't tell anymore because I've seen this already. Like once you know the twist, it's hard to know.
Yeah.
If like, could you tell that there is something going on at this point already, like in the car? I don't know. I guess.
No, I mean, the flashback stuff that works. I can get behind that, sure. But then the actual like, how high is the tension? You can't quite figure that one out
Maybe you
yet.
can insinuate something because Marie is talking about like she hooked up with some guy or something, and the other girl, what's her name?
Oh, who knows?
Who knows? I'm the worst at knowing the names of people.
It's the girl and the friend, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, no, Marie is the short-haired girl, and Alex is the one whose house they're going to visit their parents.
Okay.
And Alex is talking about how like, oh yeah, I slept with this guy and stuff, and Marie gets a little defensive. Seems a little, I don't know, wants to change the subject or whatever. Calls her a slut, I think, even. But kind of a weird scene.
Yeah, and there's hints once they get to the house about there being some kind of a jealousy and attraction from the girl to the friend, especially when she's sitting outside and happens to see this window that's perfectly placed where she can watch her friend shower. Really strange, like low window, just perfect placement to see the topless friend showering, and she clearly has some feelings about that. But at this point, we have been introduced to the killer very briefly, which we alluded to, and where he's getting some of the best kind of head, which is severed, and it looks like he's getting oral in a car, and then when he's done, he just tosses the decapitated head out, and it lands, and I don't know, it's a little silly, isn't it? I mean, it's disturbing, but it's also so over the top.
I don't know.
I think it's so silly how good
it's just crazy. Yeah, he's the most generically like terrifying, large, gross man in like a scary armored car looking thing. And yeah, he's giving himself head on a severed girl's head, and oh my god. This was the scene that I watched where I was like, all right, I thought I was ready to watch these movies, and now I think I want to call my mom and be like, I'm sorry about everything. I want to come home.
The American dub, like the girls' voices, it's fine, it's whatever. But the guy, like, you just hear him grunting and talking and saying all that stuff, and the entire time I can only picture that dude that was in all those 2000s Adam Sandler movies, the guy that like in Waterboy he mumbles, and the Waterboy's like, you like to see homos naked? And he's like, nah, home is where the heart is. And like, that's what this dude sounds like. Like it ruins the uneasiness, because the whole time I'm just like, it's that dude from the Waterboy, home is where the heart is. So you like to see homos naked.
Right on, man.
On Shudder, is it the dub still?
Yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah, Shudder I think offers both, but I think you have to like go in and manually adjust it. I cannot remember now.
So I wonder too if they still
than a day, so apparently I can't think of it.
I wonder if they still have cut out some of the gore in the dubbed version, like how it was released, or if they
because when I owned it on DVD, I owned the Lionsgate or New Line, whoever released it. I owned that, and it had the dub as like the manual choice. You had to go in and select subtitles instead, but it was one of those the flip discs, and so it was like side A was uncut and side B was cut.
Okay.
And both, but it didn't matter if it was dubbed or subbed, you could still watch it uncut.
Yeah, I would say even if you're averse to subtitles, this is not a dialogue-heavy movie. It's not very distracting. Even if you just put it on the French version and don't even turn on the subtitles if you don't really want to. I mean, you're not going to miss a whole lot.
Yeah. You missed that Jamaican, or not Jamaican, but that reggae song. You know, the reggae song I think is the most intense dialogue in the whole movie, and it's like 3 minutes.
Oh yeah, it's a song that she's listening to after she sees Alex like naked in the shower, and that's when she goes upstairs and she puts on some weird masturbation music. I don't know if I would ever masturbate, but she masturbates to this like reggae song that's just like, you're just a stupid girl or something. Like I forget what the lyrics are, but they're like really mean. But even though it's like a happy song, and it's just like, you're just a dumb girl, and you can tell it's like a depressive kind of masturbation longing thing happening in this room.
Yeah, and anybody,
the origin of sad cum.
Anybody who is ever lived at home or with a roommate should know that you never jerk off with headphones on. That's just a recipe for disaster. So that was my first like head slapping slasher move. Like, oh no, you never masturbate with cutting off of your auditory.
Oh, you field. Gotta. Otherwise, what? You just have like the full volume cranked and everybody can hear the wild, crazy porn you're watching, Mark?
Well, first of all, who needs the audio? And second of all,
oh my God,
that's just not, you don't want to walk into the room and see someone else unsuspectingly going about their business because they don't hear the door open. But anyways, that's a fun scene.
In its way. And it's well shot. It's beautiful.
And it's intercut with the killer arriving, which again was something we could read into later. But yeah, there's a lot of like diegetic pop rock songs in this movie, stuff that starts on the radio and enters the soundtrack. I feel like that's something that we see a lot of in horror movies around this time period.
Well, yeah, I wondered about the opening song because it's in French. Like when they're driving and having a good time, I was wondering, I couldn't find what song it was, but if anyone wants to let us know, that'd be great. Because I wonder if it also has like similarly like prophetic lyrics or something.
Yeah. And so we haven't really done a plot summary, but there really isn't much of one. It's just this girl and her friend going to the friend's house with her family, her mom and dad and little brother and dog are there just to study, I guess, and stay out in the French countryside. It's
the most loose plot imaginable.
Yeah, that's the whole setup.
You don't know what grade they're in. You don't know what they're doing. They're just studying.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's not important.
No.
It's hugely important, Seth. I need to know where they're at in their undergrad.
True. What are they studying? What are their majors?
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Who's your daddy? What does he do?
And then it's not very long at all until it's nighttime. She gets done masturbating, and that's where this truck driver just pulls up outside. And there's no mystery about him. You see his face the whole time. Kind of reminded me of M. Emmett Walsh, like from Blood Simple.
Yes.
I
kind of thought it was.
Lumbers over. It's a little too young looking, I think.
Yeah.
At this point, but
this is after a few years of meth.
Sure. And he rings the doorbell. Dad goes to answer, and this is where the carnage starts pretty quickly.
Oh my God.
He kills the dog. No mercy for the dog. And then we get, I don't know, probably the most memorable kill in this whole thing, right? Is what happens to the dad.
It's nuts.
He
I really tried to look this time. I have to admit, every time on this podcast when I look away, I looked away once again, and this is like the third time I've seen this movie. Because the whole thing is like he like fucks him up, and then he's like trying to crawl up the stairs, and then he shoves the dad's head through the like little rafter thing on the railing, and he's like stuck and bleeding. And then is it like a dresser or something? He like takes
kind of
cabinet and just for shits and giggles like slides it across his head, and like I don't even know what happens because I look away.
Oh, Seth. He decapitates him with the cabinet in
Mark,
full gory detail.
Thing comes off.
Whole head comes off.
Believe it, baby.
All in one unbroken shot.
His head rolls down his body rolls down the steps after that.
I think it's just still stuck there.
Because like he's wedged, but I thought it fell down.
I think he's still stuck there. I like this debate though.
right.
Well, either way, it's one, unbroken shot of it smashing his head, the head coming off, blood spurting out of the neck, and
Mom comes on down.
This did have practical effects done by Gianetto De Rossia, who was Lucio Fulci's makeup artist, who made some really disgusting, gore films. And as far as from what I can tell, this is at least, a really good example of using practical makeup effects all throughout. Because, he moves on through, he gets to the mother eventually, and there's a nice close-up shot of him slashing her throat that almost looks CGI assisted because it's so clear, and the blood just starts like gushing out without ever like cutting away. Yeah. But also that could just be really good practical effects work.
I mean, the dude that did it, he did a lot of the Fulci stuff, if not all of it, and he's really good at his job. He was mastering that shit in the early 80s. He had it down in the early 2000s too. What a pro.
Yeah, it does really showcase the blood in this movie it is just so red, and it is like it's treating it like the money shot that it is in a slasher movie, right? Like that's what people come for, and he is, well, maybe not come for, but they arrive at the movie theater looking for this. They want to see the blood, and he treats it like it's important, which it is, and it's so big and it's explosive. It's crazy. That's such a scary scene with the mom. The mom has such a rough time. Like, she comes down, she already has to like live through the whole finding my decapitated husband on the stairs thing, runs back upstairs, and doesn't Alex has to like hide in the closet, and she sees the mom get killed. It's like it
seems like she's looking right into her eyes while it happens.
It's a really creepy scene where she has to like sit in the closet and be quiet while she watches the mom like get her throat sliced, and the blood splatters all over the closet, and it's super intense.
And I think this is just a great example of what these movies are generally like, where the whole point is really to rub your face in this stuff and be as graphic as possible. And you see that carry over into his Hills Have Eyes film. You see it in a lot of these other movies, again, whether it's Saw or Hostel or Wolf Creek or whatever the movie is. You're going to see the bodies get mutilated. And that's his whole thing, I guess.
I think that it's going with that. He as a director has some sense of like care, I guess, because the death of the little kid is like the least awful out of any of them.
You're right.
And then in the cut version, I think how it works. It's been a long time since I've watched the cut version, but like he shoots the gun, and all you hear is like the gun ring out, and then like the kid is already 2/3 of the way falling into the field. Where in the uncut version, you watch him run, you watch it all happen. It goes and goes, like it builds.
Ugh.
That tension just keeps rising.
The tension has reached high at this point.
That's right.
That's
tension on high.
As if like to prove that this, he's already killed the dog and everything. Now we got this little brother who's just a really little kid who's running out into the cornfield, and killer goes out with a shotgun. And it is interesting that we don't see him get shot. It's implied, but we do later see the body just to confirm, what happened.
Yeah. There is.
And they went there. They killed a kid.
Yeah.
It's like funny games.
Even beyond just like going the extra length of like killing the kid, that's always like a big move in a horror movie. Like, you kill all the teenagers and stuff, but like the little kid, that's a big move. But I think there is something really effective about starting or centering a movie, at least like at the beginning, or even like it reminds me of something like You're Next. That's another movie where it's like it's very much about a family unit being threatened, and that is an easy way to hit an audience like where it hurts. Whereas like even in this, where we don't know these characters hardly at all, it still is like it's more intense than just some random guy on the street, some silly guy over there, teenagers at a camp. It's always more effective, and at least it is for me, to like start hitting a family really hard. And it's like there's nothing funny about these kills at all. Yeah, it's just really intense.
Yeah, this is definitely a home invasion, which I also find to be more disturbing than people, wandering out in the wilderness somewhere or in some other strange setting. But you're also right that there is no character development in this movie, really, for anybody, but especially this family. Like, they don't get so much as like a scene of them interacting, really, before all of this stuff starts, and that does blunt it a little bit for me. But
I guess I just don't think
again,
there would be much added for me, I guess. I mean, like, it's already, I guess either do one or the other, like spend a lot of time like really developing them and really making it hurt when they die, which I doubt they would be able to pull off very well. I think this mode is a better idea, and especially in a movie that's so experiential and about like just the ride, it is better just like make them faceless, so that if anything, I'm just thinking about like my own mom, my own dad, or my own family, like in a home invasion situation, because they are just so faceless. It's like, I found that effective.
Faceless until they're headless.
Ouch.
Yeah. So then the killer, he chains up the friend, and there's a while that's spent with him kind of attacking her and the main character listening from downstairs. And I was kind of wondering, do you think that there's some kind of an implied like sexual assault going on there? Because there seems to be a lot of time with them together and her screaming. And I know we eventually find her chained up. And this, again, becomes kind of a moot point once we get to the twist. But in the moment, I don't know. Did anybody read it that way?
I think that this early on, it's not. I think that there's some of the stuff later where it feels a lot worse. It feels more aggressive in so many other ways. But at this point, it just seems almost like torturous and torturous only, which feels insane to say out loud. Like, she only gets tortured. She doesn't get tortured and assaulted.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's you could imply things. There is like, yeah, that is the thing about the twist, which, man, part of me is at this point, and we can cut this out, but we just go for the twist already. Like, I feel like if we've alluded to the twist this many times, I feel like somebody's like, if I didn't want it spoiled already, I would have like stopped the podcast. But this is a
sure
question that is hard to answer. Are you out there?
Could we just go through the gas station part, and then we can get to the twist?
So be it.
Just in case anyone who hasn't seen the movie yet, eventually the action moves away from the house because the killer puts the friend into the back of his truck. The main character runs out and gets into the truck with her, unbeknownst to the killer, who then takes off. They stop at a gas station, and at this point, I mean, I think probably the most effective part of the movie for me is everything that happens at the house. But we do get kind of another stalking sequence once we get to this gas station, where basically the main character runs inside and tells the gas station attendant to call the police, but then the killer walks right inside, and he basically shoves a axe into the clerk's chest, and then starts stalking around looking for the girl inside. And I don't know, because is this a French thing where they have like giant 5-star or 5-stall bathrooms like in a little gas station? Because she like hides in these giant bathrooms.
We do not have those.
Yeah, it feels like if it was a bathroom inside of like one of those truck stops. Like if you've been driving on the highway for like 60 miles, as opposed to, whatever your nearest.
Yeah, what the fuck?
I will say real quick before I keep diving into it. as I said at the beginning, the first time I saw this movie, it scared the shit out of me. And the home invasion aspect, it's terrifying on so many different levels. But as someone that's watched so many of these and they all kind of bleed into each other, watching the killer feel the faucet to see how recently someone was in there to like kind of check another room, I thought it was genius.
Yes.
I thought it was done very well. It was very original compared to, pulling the shower curtain or standing on top of a bed with a shotgun or, anything else. I think that it really offered something else in a great way.
Oh man, yeah, because that is one of those things that, if you're in the situation, your paranoid brain would go to that, like, oh, what if he like? But there's no way he would touch the sink. Like, there's no way he'd be. Oh, he looked there. Shit, it's so fucked up. It's crazy.
I clean my sink, the little faucet thing, after every time I use the bathroom, because in that way, if someone breaks in, they will not know that I peed. I'm kind of a girl boss like that,
You're prepared.
Good advice.
I'm really just trying to make Marc laugh, and he just stares at me. waiting for me to stop talking.
You made him laugh. You made him laugh. You made him laugh. Do it again, Marc.
I can't make. I laugh once or twice a week.
Yeah,
and
I'm honored
I gotta
to be
save
one
it
of
up.
them.
You only got one more laugh this week, and then
Yeah.
it's back to no joy, no laugh.
No, then I just weep. So yeah, because this isn't just about the gore. There's suspense, sequences too, where lots of sneaking around and creeping and stalking. Probably done better than a lot of slasher movies do.
I think
and
so.
That's what happens at the gas station. And she does, at this point, she does get on the phone once he's gone to call the police because he takes off. And we do get a little bit of dumb, like, slasher movie behavior there where they're like, well, where are you? And she's like, oh, why don't you know where I am? And she won't just, like, go outside to look at the name of the gas station or a street sign or something. She ends up just hanging up and deciding to take off in a car to chase after them.
Panicked.
But then we do get a car chase. And to kind of speed to the end so we can talk about the twist. There's just a lot of action. The car flips over. The killer stalks her out to some kind of like greenhouse.
Yeah.
And they kind of have a
weird but cool. Very cool.
Yeah, good setting. Yeah, and there's he almost smothers her to death with plastic.
Oh, I hate it. It just looks so uncomfortable. Don't do that to me ever. If you're gonna kill me, don't do that.
Okay, good to know. Well, and no, instead I'll hold you down and I'll slowly run the razor up and down your body, and then I'll shove my finger in your mouth.
Oh my
like
god!
This
if
guy
you
does.
do that to me, I'm shoving my crowbar in your shoulder.
So yeah, we get that's kind of gross where he sticks his like fingers down her throat.
Oh yeah. Which fair to the point about maybe there being other sequences possibly of implied sexual assault when we don't see and things like that. Yeah. Again. All right. Not talking about the twist.
That's all right. We're here right at the end.
Here we are. We're there.
She's got this pole that's like wrapped in barbed wire, and she uses that to just bash the guy's face in to the point where there's no way he could survive, like just to a pulp. And then she smothers him with the plastic for good measure. And at this point, you see that there's like, I don't know, 15 minutes of the movie left or so. It does feel on your first viewing a little anticlimactic. Like, all right, we got one villain. He is definitely dead now. Like, what else is there left to do besides go find her friend in the truck? And that's when, around this point, we cut back to the gas station where the cops are watching the security footage. And dun, 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 it's the girl. Oh, sorry, this is the twist, everyone. It's the girl herself. The girl herself runs out with the axe and buries it into the attendant's chest.
Shut up, Jimmy.
It's about
poor Jimmy.
It's about the journey there. It's not about the destination and the twist. It's fine. It's not spoiled. Okay, I'll just tell you that much. It will be about the experience, but Yeah,
Absolutely.
there it is.
And so we end up with basically she is Tyler Durden, you know? This is the Fight Club twist that she's been the killer all
Two
along.
spoiled endings in 1 2-minute mark.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Tyler Durden is a girl the whole time?
Yep.
Oh my god.
Yep.
Tony, I need you to edit me out altogether. I can't be part of this.
That's all right. We'll put
I've
Fight Club
already edited
spoilers
myself
up
out.
front. Can you edit all of us out of this so it's just like dead air for an hour and a half?
Replace me with
Yeah,
Jar Jar.
I don't even post half these episodes. No one's ever asked.
Yeah.
But
So yeah, I thought that was. I'm not crazy about how they reveal the twist because, I don't see why not wait a little bit and maybe still use the security footage, but maybe intercut that with her own discovery, or, the way that she goes to release her friend, and her friend is terrified of her, and she doesn't understand why, and the friend even threatens her with a knife, and I feel like that would be a cooler way to be like, wait, what's going on here? And then we see the footage. I don't know, kind of just dumping it like that I feel like kind of a missed opportunity, but
I mean, it's not the most dramatic way you could have done it. But it's still like a good unexpected thing. I mean, especially in the throes of a movie that is so conventional at this point. All great film conventions that it's doing aside, I think that it is still like, even though it is like maybe like something that's been done before, it still is shocking in a genre movie like this, regardless of how it's packaged. But yeah, I could agree. There could have been a more creative way of doing it.
Yeah, do you remember, Zach, like the first time seeing this movie, how you reacted to that twist?
At that time I thought it was pretty cool. But like I said, I was 13, so it was pretty exciting just all around. The first time I watched it, I remember just being so like on edge and uncomfortable that like just the ending was exciting to me. I was just like, it's over. I can close my eyes now. But I didn't necessarily think it was bad, but I didn't think it was all that exciting either. I was just like, oh, that's kind of a cop-out. Okay. And then I found out it was based on a short story, and so I guess the overall idea didn't have to be blamed as hard on Aja, the album, and it was, I could pass it on to someone else.
Yeah, and I don't know. Now we can kind of start working our way backwards to see, like, okay, how does this whole movie fit together with it turning out that this girl's not running from or she thinks she's running from the killer, but she also is the killer. And I don't know. I've seen this movie a few times since, knowing what the twist is. And I'm going to say this isn't exactly like a M. Night Shyamalan intricate puzzle box where everything comes together. I think it doesn't really play fair. And in the end, it is kind of a dumb twist.
No
you
way.
can see clues.
It's so fun.
Well, we'll break it down. It is fun. So I'm of two minds about that.
I don't want to break it down like she could have never done this and she could have never been in two places. Like, of course.
Oh, we're going to, motherfucker.
No.
How could people build pyramids?
Yeah.
I think my main issue is that going back, the explanation for so much of it is just, most of what you're seeing is just completely imaginary with no basis in anything.
Yeah.
We're just in her head the whole time. There's very few moments where you can see like a dual reality happening or be like, ooh, that's clever. Oh, Bruce Willis, it looks like he's just got done talking to his wife at dinner and something's wrong, but really they haven't been talking at all. It's really more like, oh, okay, most of this movie just is shit that didn't happen. And it almost makes the rewatch not so much like, rewarding or fascinating as just kind of pointless. Of like,
see,
wow, and so that didn't happen too.
See, I like the rewatch because, at least from the standpoint of it being a fantasy for her, these are things that she wants to do. I don't know, I don't get caught up too much in like doing the math of like, now what actually happened and where was she in like in this situation actually, and like who did she actually kill or whatever. Regardless of like how and when and where she was, these are things she wants to do, and we are getting this like interesting like blurred reality that we're seeing of like both a bit of what actually happens and a bit of what happens in her fantasy, her like power fantasy of like what she wants to do in order to get what she wants, which is Alex. She's in love with Alex and she wants her real bad and wants her all for herself. And also, I don't know, yeah, like how do you explain like the whole why kill everyone around Alex? Yeah, it is just like this wild, like insane logic that she must be like working through, which is like, I need to eliminate everything that is between us. Like literally, not even that your dad came down and was like, you can never be gay, Alex. Not with her, not with anyone. That never happens. It's just like, no, literally everyone in the world, like it seems, I want them all dead. And I just want us to be here. Like, then I won't have to worry about anyone. I won't have to worry about any boy that you slept with, like she talks about in the beginning of the movie. So
and then
it's crazy.
And then stop at a gas station to kill some random guy for no reason because there is no one chasing you.
I don't know. Yeah, we don't know what actually happened, and I feel like we can't know. Like regardless of like what we speculate about it, at least from what I see about it.
Well, and there are clues, you know, starting with that opening scene where she's talking about it like it's a dream, and she says it was me chasing me, and that right there is almost too obvious when you're back, you know, watching it again. Or the way when the mom is killed and she's like leaning over her and she whispers like "why me" to her, I think, which makes a little sense in hindsight. That she's talking to the one who attacked her.
Yes.
And the way her friend is always freaking out when she's around instead of being relieved, you know, after she's tied up. So it does do that stuff at least.
Yeah.
Ebert actually, he had kind of a funny quote about the twist in this movie. I should have had this pulled up already. Let me see if I can find it. I always like to throw in a little Ebert, rest in peace.
That's your boyfriend, Ebert.
When we can.
You love that
boy.
I'm a big hater of that guy, actually.
I'm usually end up defending him on this podcast against the haters.
He just like both of them. They had so many strong opinions against horror movies for so long that them having redemption arcs just didn't make any sense to me. You know, starting by saying like, this is where Betsy Palmer lives, go send her angry letters like forward. I was just like, yeah, no, dude, fuck those nerds.
You're absolutely right about that stuff. They had all of these like histrionic episodes about the slasher film craze and the decline of civilization, which I mean, I really think he lightened up as time went on, but that stuff is dumb, just dumb.
Right. I'm just like, how can you go from thinking that Friday the 13th is the perfect example of how Western civilization should crash at this point to being like, well, you know, I watched this French Extreme film and it had some cool parts. Like, just, I don't know. It seems so strange to me that there was any change at all.
He liked The Devil's Rejects too. Of all movies,
like
he wrote Beyond the Valley of the Dolls.
I don't understand.
I bring it up every podcast. He wrote Beyond the Valley of the Dolls.
Yeah. I like to think of it as he's an ally who crossed back over after times of ignorance.
Sure. But what is the Ebert thing on this?
I haven't pulled up if you need it.
I got it too.
We can insult him some more if you need more time.
Let me read his Blue Velvet review out loud.
Oh dear. So he said, clever viewers will be able to see for themselves that the movie's plot has a hole that is not only large enough to drive a truck through, but in fact does have a truck driven right through it.
There is a truck.
And that's why you get paid to write lines like that.
That's right.
But
I
that's
like
another
that.
question. Where does she get this truck from too? That's never really, they're not concerned about explaining that.
She's got a truck.
There's like that. It's you watch it the second time, or you think about the first time, and it's just like how much of it was real, and that's that's one question itself, sure, but like it continues to build, like in the gas station scene, like the killer knows the dude as Jimmy. He talks to him as a regular, so that's one thing. And I'm like, part of that, it seems like it was actually happening. Part of it you're watching happen in real time. So there's that. But then, just the concept of her hiding in a stall or kicking stalls open herself, like it just keeps building, but it builds in the opposite direction because it's building against the movie. Like the more logic you add to this movie, the worse it gets as time goes on.
Yeah, I want to see those scenes. I want to see every scene of like her stalking herself for 5 minutes in a bathroom. And I want to see her like fighting herself in the green room or the greenhouse for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Where did she get the decapitated head?
That might be a more interesting
movie.
movie.
She successfully decapitate the dad? Like,
well,
right.
Yeah.
And she's just imagining some guy getting a head from a decapitated head, or that's not even something that anybody witnesses in the movie. That's just like a trick on the viewer. It's just misdirection.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's not. Yeah, it's just it's making so you can't guess the twist, because it just seems like, oh well, I mean, that would never fit. That's the movie hasn't laid the groundwork for that, so there's no way to guess it.
Yeah, and I won't give this like all the passes. Like it's a lot of convenient arguments that the director has like set up in order to make it kind of easier on him to like, well, in this instance, like, see how well I set it up, and then like in this instance where I didn't set it up very well, it was just kind of half and half reality and half fantasy. Yeah. But I don't know. Yeah, maybe the truck is just like a pickup truck. I don't know. Like we're just seeing. I mean, because I doubt that she was out there. Like she looks out the window. Like how is she pulling up with a truck, and who did she kill? How'd she get ahead? Like I don't know. It all starts to fall apart and just become like very obviously a dream. I don't like to do like silly theories too often, but I do love the fact that, again, I keep using the word fantasy, and like this is very sexual for her. The shit hits the fan right when she starts masturbating, right? That's when the killer arrives. So I mean, I'm not saying that like the whole thing didn't happen or something like that. I think it does happen, but it is, I don't know, there's something about the latter half of the movie being just, like a grisly fantasy of some sort that she's like getting off to.
Yeah.
Post-nut clarity hits all of us differently, Seth, and I don't think you need to kink shame this poor.
I'm not. I am defending her movie.
Yeah. She masturbates this killer into existence in that scene.
That's right. Who
and don't we all?
I mean, come on.
Yeah. And I mean, by the time she does get out that big old saw, I love that whole sequence when she gets the concrete saw from the killer. Well, she is the killer. We know that she's the killer, but we also
she willed it into existence.
We cut in a way that she becomes the killer again. Now that we know that she's the killer, and she's brandishing it again, going back to the sexual stuff at Alex like it's a big old penis the whole time. Which goes back to like she couldn't be a man for this girl. Like she chose this boy over her, and she's brandishing this saw and stuff, and she's asking her, do you love me, do you love me, do you love me, over and over again.
Very sex and queer positive messaging here.
Yeah,
for sure.
Shout out Pride Month.
I kill all the boys who don't kiss me, I gotta say.
Oh man, right. As a teenager, all the time I masturbated, you could fill a landfill with bodies of all of the people who died.
Just jacking off, knife in one hand, and running
just
around.
Mass graves. So yeah, at least the last scene of this movie, we're all on the same page. Now we get to we kind of cut between her chasing the friend with the saw and then back as her imaginary Emmett Walsh truck driver guy. But he does, there are still some kind of dumb things that happen after that point. Like, I don't know, when she gets into this guy's car to escape and he like just stopped his car to let her in and then he can't get it to start again. Like, okay, that's right, we're in a slasher movie.
Oh, the cars don't work in slasher land.
No, even if they were a second ago. I don't even think he turned off the car. Yeah. It's like he just would have hit the brake.
Cars stall out. I don't know.
Yeah.
France is like the Midwest where cars don't work well.
That could be.
Yeah.
And maybe if she can masturbate a truck into an existence, maybe she can masturbate the car into stopping and use her powers that way.
Right.
I love when you talk like that, Mark.
Thank you.
I'm petitioning that someone makes a high tension porn parody with more.
Oh my god, that sounds so good, Zach. I'm being honest. Like,
yeah. I'm kind of a pro when it comes to porn parodies. Come on.
Yeah, they would be like sex. All the kills would be like sex scenes, but also kills.
Yeah,
it'd be great.
You give me 15 minutes, I'll pitch this movie. Leroy Myers follows me on Twitter. I'll pitch it to him.
Okay, see you tomorrow. Let's do it.
All right.
So
and then also when the guy that's rescuing her,
blood. It's crazy.
Yeah, the killer is shoving the buzzsaw like through the windshield, and she spent like what feels like 2 straight minutes just killing this guy, and the friend just sits there and screams instead of getting out of the car.
Yeah,
Mark.
So no one to blame but herself at that point.
Look me up when you're in that car, okay? And let me know what you're doing. Let me know how well you're.
I'll be getting the fuck out. That's what I'll be doing.
All right,
I'll be getting out.
I think that Mark is really here to teach us how to react to poor situations. Seth and I are over here, experiencing fear in the moment, and Mark's just like, that's not a thing.
That's right.
Yeah, well, that's
pull up your britches. Get out of the car.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's a long.
Siskel and Ebert once said, "Get out of that car."
That is a long tradition of horror and slasher movies, right? Where people sit in the audience, they go, "Run, run! No, don't go in there, you idiot! You idiot!"
Yeah.
So whatever, I'll give her points for maybe being in a panic. We get another really gross gore shot of her like pulling this piece of glass out of her Achilles tendon while she's on the ground. So let's not forget that. Yeah, and basically we get she kind of lures her over with a kiss. She kisses the killer as kind of a means to distract her, and then impales her with a crowbar, which I would have to imagine is not an easy thing to impale a person with.
But she does it because she, that's friendship.
Yeah.
Power of friendship.
The power of friendship.
It's a pretty crazy scene. It's a real bloody, gross kiss, and then you get stabbed.
I think that this scene, out of all of them, but this scene's got that real New Zealand vibes. The Peter Jackson level of gore.
Oh yeah,
just over the top. It goes on forever. And I mean, like you said, it's like a 2-minute scene of that bandsaw just going ape shit, but it's fine.
It says concrete saw in Wiki, and I didn't know you would ever use a saw on concrete. Here you go. Seems crazy.
Well, sometimes you gotta cut into concrete car windshields.
I'm just always whittling concrete, carving concrete.
Yeah. You guys should all DM Seth, ask him for a concrete duck. He whittles them like crazy at work.
They're really heavy.
All right. So yeah, that's High Tension basically, and I am kind of two minds about this whole twist because it is dumb. It does make the rewatch seem almost like a waste of time at points. However, if this movie had just ended with her, killing the killer and that was it, that this would be such a more run-of-the-mill slasher movie than what we end up with. So I think in the end, I am pro the twist, you know, if the alternative is just
Right.
the movie ending after he kills the guy. So, and it's like the most distinguishing thing about it is also the silliest thing, but I'll give it points for that. I don't think I would like this movie better without it.
Oh yeah. And I like the final scene too, where, I mean, there's even like an added supernatural, like yet another thing that doesn't make sense, like at the very last scene, because she goes to visit her her friend at the end, who was the killer and did all this shit. Alex goes and visits her at the mental asylum or wherever she is, and she's like looking in, and it's clearly like a one-way mirror. Like she shouldn't be able to see her, but then she clearly does, and she like opens her arms like she wants to grab her, and she's so excited that she came to visit her, and then the movie ends. So yeah, again, yet another layer of like almost like maybe it's that she's just so fucking in love with this woman that she's got crazy superpowers. I don't even know.
I think that a lot of times people make comparisons between Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. Goddamn. Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, and Maniac. And it's always, you know, like Henry is more of like a all-around gruesome and disgusting one, where Maniac, like, it has those fantasy elements that kind of keep it held down and save you from getting too fucked up from it. And I think that this, if you were to look at these two back to back, I think that High Tension, it does that same thing. High Tension kind of holds itself down with the goofiness, with the fantasy, and it saves you from being too grossed out, being too traumatized by it, because by the end, you know, you've laughed for like 20 minutes of this hour and a half at how dumb and bullshit so much of this stuff is.
Yeah, that makes this
Martyrs isn't.
Yeah, I
Sorry,
I
please.
could make a that's good. I like those, and that makes me want to make another comparison. Is that a French accent? I can't do a French accent. Comparis.
You sound like Strong Bad, so that's
Okay.
I think you just had a stroke, but go ahead.
I had a stroke, and now I'm talking again. That is the American Psycho. That's another thing that is sort of in this vein of like we can watch it a bunch of times and like go over like, now does it make sense that Patrick Bateman was there? Did he do these things? Is this a thing that he's just like imagining? Like that's
okay.
I imagine this is
another
definitely...
spoiler. Everyone knows the Fight Club twist, but now you got to ruin American Psycho for everyone.
I haven't said it. Also, it's the journey.
And you brought up Sixth Sense. Like, come on, man.
It's the journey. I'm telling you what.
We're ruining all types of movies today.
But
I see what you're saying.
I wouldn't be surprised if this was sort of inspired at least a little bit by that.
Definitely. And this is kind of almost an outlier of an example among the whole new French Extremity, which is maybe why it was the one that they actually tried to put in theaters for like a mainstream US audience. It doesn't seem as bleak and fatalistic as like the other like 4 movies that I mentioned.
It ain't Martyrs.
And and it's certainly not Martyrs, which is I think a much better example of that. This fits so much more just into the kind of particularly graphic slasher phase, like the TCM remake and other movies like that. So it does seem a little, but I think it was worth talking about in this context because of how it was probably the most widely seen of all of them. And it's a good contrast how this one kind of is, you're able to enjoy it more like from a distance than the grueling nature of the other ones out there.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen High Tension like at least 10 times, and every time I find something else enjoyable about it. where, Martyrs, I've just seen the one time. ILS, I fucking loved it, but I've only seen it twice. I forget what the other two you named were, but
Right, Frontiers
also,
and Inside.
Inside and
Yeah.
Frontiers. Yeah. Yeah. Frontiers is also pretty awful, and Inside is also pretty awful. Like, they're just, you don't really win anything with those. ILS, you at least win a little bit with the ending, but Martyrs, we'll talk about it in a minute, but there's nothing. You don't get anything from that movie.
Oh yeah.
You go outside and look at the sun for a little bit.
Yep. All right,
That's not
so
totally true. I watched both of these movies on ffupmovies.com, which I want to stop mentioning on every episode because they're not paying us, but that is where I have to end up watching all these. Both pretty good quality versions of the original with the subs, but I got like 5 viruses from watching Martyrs on that website, so don't say you don't get anything out of it.
I watched Martyrs last night, and I watched it on Tubi, and I'm convinced that that's the only reason why I didn't kill myself is because I would get commercials about how like Activia was the yogurt for you every 30 minutes of Martyrs.
Oh, thank God.
I would get a small 50-second break.
No, that's in the original. They're just they're all in French and they're subbed, but
Yeah, it's called art, Zach.
yeah.
I wish I knew. I don't know.
Yeah, can we get sponsored by ffupmovies.com and 123watchmovies.com? Because that's where I watch mine.
123watchmovies.com is where
And
it's
Activia now.
every single
and
time.
Activia, yeah.
.net, sorry.
Every
.net.
single time Seth tries to share that website with any of us, he gets the URL slightly wrong. And if you go to the wrong website that Seth gives you by accident, it will crash your computer. So we're going to
I'm sure.
fact check that before you will go watch any movies or whatever Seth just said. But
I'm a hacker.
Yeah.
So many hazards for these movies. Yeah. So the question then is, would anybody unwatch this if they could? And I would say no. I mean, I thought I'm not a huge fan. I think it's pretty dumb, but I wouldn't unwatch it. I mean, it's not like it was disturbing, really.
Well, me and Zach have both watched it multiple times. So, spoiler.
Never too late to unwatch.
I think if there was something about it to be unwatched, maybe unwatching at the age of 13, it really, like, it made me truly understand the fear of home invasion. I saw Black Christmas a couple years prior. I had seen Halloween already, but like Black Christmas, I was like, okay, there's actual things to be afraid of inside your own home. But then watching High Tension, I was just like, yeah, fuck that. Like, you're not safe anywhere. So I guess maybe waiting a couple years to watch it.
Oh, man.
Then maybe I wouldn't be here talking about it with Tony and Seth and Marc and Activia.com.
Thank you, Activia.
Black Christmas walked so that High Tension could run.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
So this next movie comes at the kind of the tail end of the new French Extremity trend,
Fucking
as loosely
killed it.
organized as it is. And that is Martyrs from 2008 from the director Pascal Logi. And he has made a few movies since. There is one that's called The Tall Man from 2012. And I saw that it starred Jessica Biel, and I was like, well, that sounds interesting. I wonder what that's like, and clicked over to it on Letterboxd and saw that I had watched and rated it and have no memory of it. Apparently,
It's bad.
Yeah, that must have been why.
Yeah. This is a We Love Jessica Biel podcast episode. First, the Texas Chainsaw remake. Now, The Tall Man.
Yeah. And strangely enough, Martyrs had an American remake in 2015, like a fully Americanized.
Yeah.
And I read a summary of it. I'm certainly not going to watch it, but it seems
it's
like...
on Tubi if anyone does want to see it.
Oh, good. And yeah, it sounds like it goes full, like the second half, they have like a whole revenge thing and totally turn it on its head. But I would say the original Martyrs of all these movies maybe has the biggest reputation as, this is the ultimate endurance test, that this is the top of the pile of the, can you sit through Martyrs? And I mean, I'll be interested to see if everybody agrees with that or not, but it is definitely not high tension, although there is high tension.
Yeah. It's not.
But just,
it's a different movie. You're correct.
I'm not going to even summarize the whole thing because I feel like so much of this depends on a series of narrative altering twists, like one after another. So, but the basic setup is that we open seeing this little girl, Lucy, escaping from captivity. She's being held and tortured in some sort of dank, abandoned building, and nobody knows who captured her or why. And she does escape and manages to grow up in this home or something where she meets a lifelong friend, Anna. And at the same time, we kind of realize that she is being stalked by this golem-like creature, which is very J-horror, like very stringy-haired kind of specter that I guess is following her around her whole life.
She's so gross.
And that's basically the setup, because after we learn all of that stuff and they still don't know who captured her or what's going on with the creature, we flash to 15 years later, and this is, I think, one of the most memorable parts of the movie, where we're suddenly with this family, this idyllic kind of upper middle class family having breakfast, and they don't seem related to anything else. There's a father and a wife and this teenage son and daughter. And we spend a little scene with them kind of bantering and interacting. And the doorbell...
The daughter just won a soccer championship, and the son's figuring out what he wants to do with school.
Yeah, and there's this little subtle like zoom into a newspaper article about the girl's accomplishment, which is a neat little bit of misdirection too, because you're thinking like, oh, okay, this is an important character. This is something significant that's going on, right? And Dad goes to answer the door in the middle of their, breakfast conversation, and what happens, Seth?
This bitch runs in and shoots them all with a shotgun. Real hardcore, like that's what
every one of them, the whole family, kids and parents, she blasts them graphically away. And the person doing it, we learn, is the slightly older Lucy.
Yeah. Who did we gloss over, sort of? Like, she's at, like, what even is it? Is it asylum for little kids? Is it just an orphanage where they meet, her and the other girl?
Didn't seem clear to me.
I don't think it's an orphanage. I think it's it seems more focused on their like mental well-being.
Yeah. So after she escapes and everything,
when
that's
Anna
where she
has
goes.
that phone call with her mom later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we never learn why her friend Anna seems to be there also.
Mm-hmm. Which that's all like shot really weird. It's like shot like a Super 8 camera, and it has some of the worst looking credits I've ever seen. They all look like these horrible like the font that you write Saw in or something, like real rusty metal letters as the font for the credits. I thought that was really funny.
Microsoft Word art.
It's really disorienting because it's already trying to be like old-fashioned film stock, and then it's like throwing on like CGI like metal letters and stuff. But all that aside, we established that Lucy's only friend is this other girl who like believes her and believes that she's been through like all this crazy stuff and is stalked by this this demented, crazy, naked woman. And after Lucy grows up and now just kill the whole family, at least at first, to us for like no reason, which makes that whole scene, it's a long scene too, and it makes that scene very just like, wait, hang on, who is this, what is happening? And you're just like keep on asking that, and it's just the answers are not coming but we do get them when she runs out of the house and calls her friend and basically explains what's happened, that it was a revenge killing, that these were the people, she says, these were the people that did that to her, which already seems like crazy to us, because it's like they seemed like just a normal family. So we're already like not sure if we're supposed to like believe her, what is going on exactly. And the other girl is just sort of like, well, now I'm implemented, like now I'm like sucked into this, and runs to the house.
She's just trying to eat her bread in that little red car, and then she just gets pulled in, and
yeah,
here she is, an accessory to murder.
It is a good car.
Yeah, it definitely does not seem like it makes any sense at all that this family had anything to do with her being kidnapped. And like you said, it's really like shockingly abrupt the way that she blows away the dad and the mom. But she does have a moment with the teenage son, you know, where he sits down and she's kind of deciding like if she's going to kill him, which she then just abruptly does. And then she stalks the girl, shoots her through a bed.
It's fucking brutal.
Yeah, and so she does decide to kill the children too. And then Anna shows up and is basically helping her move the bodies and going along with the whole thing, while still it being clear that she's not sure this is the right thing. And
yeah, because she's like, you were just supposed to watch them. You were supposed to call me and report to me what was happening.
Yeah, and that even leads to a little bit later where this family seemed to have been dead for quite a while, and suddenly the mom just springs to life, like, you know, with her body in the bathtub. And Anna does try to like sneak her out to save her because she doesn't believe Lucy. But Lucy gets on top of that and bashes the mom's head in like to a pulp with a hammer.
Yeah, like,
dude, you see the dent? Like, it is.
I didn't see the dent. I had to look away.
Oh,
Seth,
poor delicate Seth.
It's too much,
man.
These people aren't really dying. You know,
I know
that, right?
you've said this to me before, but it still doesn't work. It still doesn't work. In the throes of the moment. But yeah, definitely some extreme shit going on. It's definitely borderline like
some
unbelievable, like just how brutal some of it is, and the sound effects, like even just like they're pulling some of the bodies to like hide them in the woods, and it's just like thud, plop. It's just like every bit of this that can be like drawn out and made gross is made gross and drawn out for sure.
Yeah, and I feel like this part of the movie is a little more in like high tension territory, as far as it's not really focused on the suffering and the like body mutilations so much as these big sudden murders. They're so far it's all with a shotgun, and it is definitely shocking just on a narrative level that suddenly everyone's getting killed. But it doesn't really seem at this point like this is a torture porn movie, or maybe even what you would be suspecting from this movie if you only know it by reputation. So, I mean, Seth, this was your first time watching it, right?
Yeah, it feels like a really fucked up thriller at this point. And you just feel really rudderless, because the person I'm supposed to be, like, I thought was like the main character who I was empathizing with, because she had like been through abuse in this mysterious way, and like is like was clearly going through some shit, and now is like she just killed these people in this horrible way, and like I don't know who I'm like looking towards. It's really intense, like right from the get-go. And yeah, you also feel for Anna, who is just caught in the middle of this, and it's just like she knows if she like tries to run, like she's dealing with her friend who she loves, but who she knows is like capable of horrible things.
I feel like this movie throws a lot at us really quickly as it's starting.
And I love that.
From going through the time periods so quickly to 15 years later to meeting this family. And then even after the family has been killed, the Gollum shows up again and is slicing her back and attacking her. So we have this other level that seems like supernatural on top of it being this thriller, and it almost seems like too many elements to figure
prog
out
rock.
exactly what kind of movie this is and what's going on.
It's fucking prog rock.
Because this figure is back and still attacking the shit out of Lucy, and Anna has to like sew her back up together.
Oh, it's so brutal.
I think that scene is a really good scene because she's telling Anna, and you can hear in Anna's voice, she's just like, yeah, it's the naked woman. Yep, I get it. You know, like you can kind of see that if you didn't already believe it, this is a great point to believe that Anna does not want to be here anymore. You know, like it's gone too long, it's gone too far. She does not believe anything that's going on anymore is a normal approach to any of this. Like, you can tell that she's trying to push through it, moving bodies, you know, washing things up, cleaning them up, but then just like, oh, the girl came back, she's just like, fuck, dude, like, I'm stuck. I am like actually stuck in this. And I think it's a very powerful scene, as they say in the film podcasts that I listen to.
That's how Ebert would put it.
Using the P word.
Shout out my boy Ebert.
And so if we're just getting our bearings at this point, after the mom comes back to life, Lucy bashes her head in. Before we can even start to get into the rhythm of things, this monster is back, and it's basically, you know, intercut with Anna watching Lucy be attacked. But what she sees is Lucy slicing herself up, that there's no monster there. She slices her, like her wrists and her whole arms to basically commit suicide. And then runs outside and, you know, slits her own throat open.
She
Another
like runs through
very
a
nasty
window.
scene.
It's so awesome.
That's right.
And horrible. And she also like bashes her head against a wall, and then she runs through the window, and then like it's like, is it raining? It's like raining outside, and Anna.
You can watch all this, but you can't watch someone get shot at the breakfast table.
I guess. I don't know how my brain works. Sorry about the background noise. Somebody's landing a helicopter. But
I'm trying to eat French fries as quiet as possible.
Good job. But yeah, she slits her throat and she's dead.
Exactly. So this is kind of like our third twist already, that not only is it basically revealed that this ghoul is just in her head and she's actually cutting herself, which raises some questions like how she managed to slice her back up so thoroughly on her own. But
don't start doing that.
Also she's dead now. So this was supposed to be one of our two main characters, and now she is gone. So yet again, we have the narrative rug pulled out from under us before we even barely got onto our feet.
It's not that kind of movie, and it's not that kind of movie, and now it's not that kind of movie.
Yes. And that takes us right into our fourth twist, which really I feel like I can just plot this out just by the twists at this point, because now that Lucy is dead, Anna then starts snooping around the house for some reason and discovers a secret passageway and a dungeon, and leading down to an actual, you know, torture place,
like a facility. It's like, it's definitely different than the flashbacks you see of like where the other girl was being tortured, which seems more like,
this one feels so much more medical, where the flashback ones just felt like fucked up, but like in like a abandoned industrial building kind of way.
And this is where we get the first like religious sort of undercurrents, because down in this underground hallway, you get these pictures that almost look like, I don't know, like Madonnas or something, like in a church, but they're pictures of just people being mutilated and tortured, but they all have this specific like strange look in their eye, and she's just like, what? Like, once again, like, we thought we were going in the direction where like Lucy was crazy. Okay, this was all like, she shouldn't have killed this family. Turns out family who seemed pretty nice that got killed living right above just this torture facility.
Yeah, and one thing that is the same is it's the same metal chair that has a hole in the bottom so they can pee into a bucket.
That hasn't changed.
That we know that the little girl had. So these are the same people. We don't necessarily know that the children knew anything about it, but so yeah, now it turns out, so Lucy was right. These people were doing that. And not only that, but she finds their latest victim there, who is this just emaciated, scarred all over her body lady who also has these kind of metal blinders that are attached to her head. And she doesn't seem to be able to speak. And she helps. So yeah, she helps this very disturbing looking lady upstairs. At which point, I guess even with this discovery, doesn't feel like getting an ambulance or anything involved. But she does take her into a bathtub and very gruesomely pry out the staples out of this lady's skull so she can get this thing off of her head.
Well, I don't think she's going to call an ambulance because right now she's like implemented in killings, basically, right? Like she doesn't know what to do.
Sure, but circumstances have changed a little bit,
I guess.
I thought that it was kind of implied, just based on the way she looked and everything. I thought that was the actual woman that Lucy was seeing when she was a kid. Like when she gets called a slut and goes into that room and sees a woman being tortured. That vision combined with her as the girl from The Grudge that she sees as an adult, I thought they were just kind of coming together in it's been 15 years, it's been a continued torture type deal, blah, blah, blah. I just thought it was the same.
I think you're right? So
I could see that.
This is the woman that she saw and inspired these nightmares, right? These nightmare visions of the Golem woman. And this is the real Golem woman who is still Golem-like, but a little bit more less Golem-like, but still like she's terrifying. Like she is like twitchy and like constantly shaking, and it's really disturbing. She because Anna takes her and gives her a bath, and like even the bath seems like it's hurting her because she has like slashes all over her body. It's a really visceral scene when she takes those staples out.
The staples scene, that was Becca watched this with me, as I said at the beginning, and that was the scene where Becca and I both like made a noise.
Oh yeah,
because there was a couple points in the movie where I was like, "Are you okay?" And Becca was like, "Yep, I'm good." And I was just like, "All right." But then I was like, "Oh no!" And Becca, I think, just kind of like groaned a little bit, and I was just like, "Yeah, this is it. This is definitely like kind of the shift into what I was anticipating." The first third of the movie, I was just like, "Yep, this sucks, but it's okay." It didn't feel as extreme as I was anticipating. Where this, I was just like, "Yes, this is it. This is the thing that makes me uncomfortable."
Yeah, I don't mean to harp on the scene too much, but it is like again another aspect of maybe it's the French Extreme, maybe it's this particular story, which is about like sort of, not to give too much away, but give it like finding the divine in horror, and it is shot like this it's kind of beautiful. It's like the sun is streaming through this very beautiful like bathroom, and the bathtub is really pretty.
The bath looks so nice. Like they really paint that water as like a Renaissance painting of like, this woman's about to take the greatest bath of her life.
But it's like also you have to keep on. Yeah, it's like your brain is pulled in like two different directions, which I love about that scene.
Yeah, because it's like as she's going into the water, like the water looks so great. Everything about it is so clean compared to the rest of the house. But then it's like you see her knee kind of like bend as she does it, and there's like bone coming out of her leg, and it's just so much going on.
It's beautiful.
It's almost calming, but in like the worst way.
You're still groaning.
I think that was the grossest part of the movie for me, is the makeup job on this lady.
I agree.
And that scene, that really did was kind of skin crawling. And if I was that lady, I'd be like, let's just leave the staples be for now. We can maybe do that later when I make my way to a hospital and they put me under anesthesia. Like, we're good. I'll keep this on. But that would deny us some gooey grossness. Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah,
it would.
So, anyways, now we seem to be going in another direction with this, and this lady starts freaking out and trying to like saw off her arm or hand or something, and horrible. Anna chases her out into the hallway, and then boom, this basically this whole crew of people arrive, shoot the lady. So we get yet another unceremonious, death of a character that we just met. And basically this is our next, I've lost track of all the twists at this point, but at this point is when this whole secret society arrives and takes Anna, and they clearly are in on this with the family.
They look like secret agents.
Yeah, they do. And that's where they take Anna, and we have this old lady, the madame, come in and basically explain everything that's going on to her. So she talks about this secret society who wants to inflict as much suffering as they can on a subject to find the martyr, who can basically persevere through so much physical suffering that they transcend their body and they see life after death. And apparently women are more sensitive to this transformation. And that's what Lucy was kidnapped for all those years ago. Apparently they've been trying for 15 years with this last lady, and they were like, let's just blow her head off now after 15 years of putting some work into it.
Yeah, French Extremity, they are very certain to mention the fact that we tried children, okay? Don't get it twisted. We tried to torture children, all right? It didn't work. All right, they didn't
exactly.
Women just work better. Okay, we are.
Lucy was a kid, and and now Anna is going to become the next subject to become a martyr, and that's basically the whole rest of the movie after that. So
yeah,
this is a really strangely structured film where you have this like first half that is just rug pull after rug pull after rug pull. Mm-hmm. Then it settles into this final like 35 minutes or so, which is just the torturing of Anna. And I think that's what people think of when they think of this movie for the most part. And we basically are walked through this whole process, which isn't very complicated. She's chained to a chair, they cut her hair, and we just see over and over again. Like, there's basically two parts to her torturing. Somebody comes and feeds her this green gruel that she has to swallow, and if she doesn't want to, they slap her. And then that's alternated with some giant guy who comes in and unchains her and just slaps and punches and beats her till she's like unconscious, basically.
There's circles of hell.
And they just go back and forth. I actually started to count because it was so like repetitive that we get 3 scenes of her eating the gruel and 4 scenes of this giant guy just beating the shit out of her.
Yeah, the torturers.
The first time he goes to beat her up, he unchains her, but he doesn't unchain her any of the other times. So that first time he unchains her, that combined with the way that the madame was talking to her, I was like, oh, they're gonna like make her one of the like the special people, they're gonna give her that black jacket. And so I was just like, sure, all right. And then like he just starts beating the shit out of her, and I was like, oh no, I greatly misunderstood this.
It's an even more special person in their eyes. The martyr.
Right.
Yeah. And this is weird. Like I don't know. This movie has this reputation for being, the ultimate endurance test. And yet this whole like torture sequence, it's like for this whole, society that's highly organized and idealizes suffering and has been going on for decades. They're not very creative about their torture. They literally just like, all right, couple times a day, this guy's going to slap the shit out of you and then leave. Like there's nothing creative going on there. There's not even like
Yeah.
Hostel type stuff. There's no like pulling out their fingernails or something. It's just like a guy like punching the shit out of her, which is not fun to watch, especially with it being this giant guy, but it's not really, it's not that graphic. And I don't know. I was always surprised when I saw this movie that I didn't actually find it that hard to watch, at least compared to, I don't know. I feel like The Passion of the Christ is about 100 times more like brutal and prolonged as far as torturing someone to martyrdom, No, but I guess go ahead.
I mean, that is a good point. I didn't really think about it because I wasn't thinking about like its place in like torture porn or its reputation necessarily while I was watching it. But that is sort of a weird outlier. It's an outlier in that way that like only the end of like the torture scene, like the final like torture is like really intense. But before
Phase
that,
4,
it is just, yeah, you're right. It is pretty tame, like comparatively speaking. It's still intense because like watching a woman get like punched by this large man over and over again is awful, and she is just clearly demoralized and destroyed, and becoming like traumatized and like catatonic at a certain point. Yeah, I don't know. It is strange, but I mean, it does fit sort of what's going on, I guess. I like that the torturers go down there and they aren't like enjoying it. They aren't like getting off on it or anything. You can see it's very mechanical and very much just like, this is X plus Y, and this is what we have to do in order to get to the other side, right? Like, this is what we need to do. It's very clinical.
It's like a science to them. Yeah. They see it as just like, this is what has to happen in order to see if we can achieve this, if we can find that fourth martyr in the last how much time.
Yeah, the guy's just like clocking in for the day, and like afterwards he's probably going like to his other job, Burger King.
Yeah,
and then now it's time to beat the shit out of our martyr.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I think you're right. I think there could have been something more creative going on, but at the same time, it might betray that idea. Like, it might be like, no, why are they like?
The old lady kind of explains it in a way that the true trick to torturing someone is doing it in this such way. You repeat it, you do it coldly, you build them up just enough to knock them back down two more pegs, and you just kind of like let them coast along in a way that they continue to ride it out. And it seems like such a much bigger picture to her as an individual, where everyone else below her, it comes back to like what you were just saying, Seth, where they see it as a methodical thing. And I think that the repetition, while it sullies the ability to make it a truly graphic and fucked up movie after, this sounds awful to say, but after the second time of watching that woman get beat, you're just like, yeah, okay, well, at least she's going to live through it. That's fine. It really furthers that idea of just true fucked up torture.
Right. And the true martyr, probably in their eyes, if I'm kind of reading into it, but maybe the true martyr is the one who, through the repetition, will find a way of rising above it or becoming like going to this like otherworldly state to escape it, where like maybe if there are other things introduced, that's kind of counterintuitive, right? Because she does, like, it almost is like a Rocky montage or something, because like they introduce the gruel again and she's like eating it just fine. She doesn't spit any of it out. She swallows it, right?
There's this piano music like playing underneath it eventually. But you're right, they really should have put like Eye of the Tiger under it and show her like, yeah, man, I'm going to take this gruel. I'm going to absorb these blows. But it does seem that it's building to when they finally take her out of there for phase 4 and they strap her to this like spinning gyroscope device and cut off her clothes. And they skin her alive, basically head to toe, but we don't see it at all. So even that wasn't that was something that I was like, oh man, here we go, this is going to be the thing.
Yeah, I found that
but
interesting.
it just cuts to right afterwards, and you just get to see her in this kind of, like bodysuit makeup job, which is, gross and slimy, but at that point,
horrible,
wasn't really focused on her, suffering. She just comes out afterwards. So I feel like
she looks like Frank from the first Hellraiser.
Yes. Yeah, because it's just her face is left on. Kind of the opposite of how like Leatherface would take their faces off. She just gets to keep the face. They take everything else.
Leatherface is running around with her bodysuit.
There's got to be a foil to Leatherface, so it's the person that is, leather body.
There you go.
But yeah, I did find that interesting. I couldn't even figure out, like, did they skin her? Did they burn her? Like, I wasn't even sure. Like, again, yeah, interesting for a movie that is like really interested in showing you like horrible shit. They just cut.
Yeah, so in that way, I feel like we kind of get off easy, and that's kind of the end of that stuff in the movie too. So I don't think it's that hard to get through. But we do then, at some point after that, one of the people who, I don't know, works there or whatever, comes like shrieking into the room, that she's like, oh, look, like I've never seen an expression like this on her face. She's liberated, completely liberated, which is a really like high billing then for them to show us her face, where she's just kind of like gaping forward. It's almost would have been better if they didn't show us her face, because like, how does that look any different from somebody who is just kind of zonked out?
Right. Yeah. Someone that just had all of their skin cut off looks about the same.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing. We're seeing them reading into the situation, like what they want to see. Right. It's like, yeah, you probably haven't seen an expression like that. At least maybe they haven't tried this method even. But yeah.
But make no mistake, it does work. She does become a martyr, and they immediately call the madam to come hear her secret. And, they have her floating in a bathtub like one of the precogs in Minority Report, like just ready to give her like her wisdom, and that's another thing where, madam, leans over and we see her mouth move as she's whispering something to her. And just the fact that this epiphany is something that she could just kind of verbally sum up in a few sentences and just like tell her something. I don't know. Yeah. I think the whole idea is really silly, that of what they're putting her through. It's kind of hard for me to get too disturbed by any of this when they're like, oh, she's got the secret to life after death now.
Oh, no way. I'm in. I can see. I mean, it's about the foolishness of the cult. It's clear. Well, then again,
but they're right. She does tell her the secret of life after death. She does transcend herself.
Well, we don't know that. That's the whole thing. Like, we have that whole sequence which we didn't talk about, which is a crazy aspect of this, where they zero into her eyeball while she's lying there bleeding, and we see this whole like white light, and it's like a psychedelic sort of light show for a second. It's like digital whatnot is going on, so we're like maybe seeing what she's seeing, which is like implied to be the other side, at least if we're I don't know if we're taking it seriously. I mean, that's sort of the confusing thing, because it does land on this place, because the cult arrives and they have this whole speech like, you're like, she did it, can you believe it? And then the madam goes up and she shoots herself after hearing the secret.
That's the big punchline. She's about to tell everybody.
You guys are really underselling it. There you go.
That's the whole stinger of the movie, that they call everyone there. It's kind of like the cult in Being John Malkovich, where like all the old people show up and they're like, all right, now we're finally going to see the transformation, or we're going to hear what the secret is of life after death. And the madam is, basically I can't remember exactly what she says. Something like keep.
She says something to the guy, and she's like, "Don't you want to know what truly happens? You know what it's really like?" And he's like, "Yeah, of course." And she's like, "Keep wondering," and then just blows her fucking brains out.
Like what she heard was too profound and made her kill herself, and now they have to go on wondering.
Well,
yeah, and that's
pretty
it.
Badass, if you ask me.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different ways you can like imagine what is said. I mean, it could also just be gibberish, and she knows it's gibberish. Like, and after all this, like yet another one, like this is the closest maybe they came or something like that. And they still, it's just gibberish. So yeah, she shoots herself because it was all for naught. Or
I don't know about that reading, because she's really careful. The guy keeps asking her like, and she told you, and it was clear, and she's like, oh yes, no room for interpretation. And she's very methodically taking off her eyelashes, and they've called the whole society there to tell them.
Well, I figure that's another aspect of this. She's like any cult leader. Quite often, it's like at least a little aware that maybe what she's peddling is bullshit, right? And maybe
I don't get that vibe from her. I don't know.
Or at least has had that sort of doubt going on in her mind. Which, yeah, we don't have a lot to go on with this character. We don't spend a lot of time with her, so it is. I get it as a vibe. So, but that's an interpretation that I think is pretty valid too.
Well, the specific words that she uses there, she asks him, like, could you imagine what awaits after death? Is like how she phrases it, and he like asks if she's okay, and she like clarifies again and like asks the same question, and then he says no, that he's like sure he couldn't imagine, and she says, well, keep doubting. That's the last line. And then she blows her head off. So there is a way to read that where it's like, oh yeah, like keep doubting that you could figure this out, but like now that I know, fuck this whole bullshit we're doing here. So who knows? Maybe she just whispers a bunch of just insane person going into shock nonsense, and it's like, oh, this whole thing that I had, I was barking way up the wrong tree or something, but I don't know. I don't know that that there's enough substance there for it to really warrant like that kind of deep analysis. But that is keep doubting is the last line, so that's at least something.
I don't know. I feel like the irony is supposed to be that she knows and will kill herself before she can tell anybody. That's supposed to be like the Twilight Zone twist at the end. The guy left alone
coolest reading
on the planet.
See, this just seems
able
weird.
to read all the books, and then he breaks his glasses, and then the episode ends.
Right.
She finds out what Bill Murray says at the end of Lost in Translation, and she just doesn't know what to do with all that power.
Who would I tell? No one.
Yeah,
I hear that. I'm open to any interpretation when it comes to this sort of thing, this Lost in Translation sort of thing that we're not privy to. That seems a little random to me. I don't know, but yeah, that just she's like, well, I'm not going to tell you, but I do know. But
yep, and it's right cut to black at that point. Then they give us like the dictionary definition of martyr, which means witness, which is always, usually you start your term paper by defining the word that you're talking about, not ending with it. So that's interesting.
Yeah, we were actually supposed to watch it backwards.
There you go.
Ooh, it's one of those Satan messages. I mean,
that's right.
Yeah. There's also, she figured out the answer, and she figured out that like, yeah, if there's some sort of divine power, like maybe it's pissed at her. Maybe it doesn't love what they did in order to get to there. I don't know.
But then why kill herself to hurtle into the abyss? Immediately. It seemed like there'd be something like appealing almost on the other side for her.
No, it wouldn't be appealing if you know that you've done the wrong thing and now you're going to hell, right?
Well, then why would you go to hell right away? You'd avoid it by not killing her. Well, anyways, I think we're picking apart this dumb movie too much.
Well, you think it's dumb, and I do not. That's the thing.
Yeah, no, that is my opinion. And especially the way that it goes when it cuts to black at the end and it goes back to like showing the home videos of the little girls together. I think that just kind of underscored for me that this movie is so scattered that it doesn't, the girls' relationship, doesn't end up really mattering at all. That this isn't a story about the two of them, and there's two. Even the the golem thing turns out to just be a red herring, almost like an excuse to throw in a grudge monster when
It's just
really that
awesome.
doesn't go anywhere. Exactly, but it's just awesome. That's it. And there's too
Nothing
many
can
like
be just awesome if it's awesome.
oh, Seth, I think it can. Where so much of it just seems like kind of was just there to get those because well, if we don't have that, then we don't have enough stuff going on.
Oh,
Like
yes.
and all so much stuff ends up not mattering. There's too many psycho type twists. It's like as if Marion Crane gets to the hotel and she's murdered and we switch protagonists, but then Norman walks out the door and he gets murdered. And then we find out about Mother, but we just kind of explain her away with a line. And actually, we move on to something else that's happening. Too much for me.
It was all about the husband or that boyfriend at the beginning that wouldn't marry her.
There you go. Yeah, it's about him and then maybe the detective afterwards.
That's right.
Right.
And,
I mean,
Vince Vaughn was there the whole time.
I mean, structurally, it winds up being like Anna's journey, actually. Like that is kind of like the secret to the movie, is that it's about her like almost hero's journey or initiation into this higher self, if we are buying it in that way, right?
Well, that's the important thing to keep in mind, sometimes you got to be stronger for the other person in the relationship, and so she was so strong that she wouldn't even let them have their torture. She was the one that wanted to come out on top in the name of love.
Yeah.
There you go. It's a love story until
That's
it
right.
isn't anymore, and then but I don't know. It takes a very winding path to get there. And I don't know, I found the last like 35 minutes when it just gets down to her methodical torturing and everything to just be dull. Personally, it got less interesting. It was almost like all of the twists were there to get us to a profoundly less involving place.
Here's what I'll say.
Out.
It gave me heavy Natalie Portman and V for Vendetta vibes the whole time.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. Like, I didn't want to make that reference and then like have someone boo me, but yeah.
Well, I liked the movie a lot, but I couldn't help but like, when did the comic come out? I guess I don't know. It kind of does have
like the 90s.
Yeah.
Right?
So like, yeah, I don't know if it's might have been something they were sneaking in there, but it is kind of like that. It's a secret facility that is there to torture you until you are set free.
Yeah. Wow, man, Seth, I can never get a handle on you.
What?
We thought you're so like squeamish about, this movie and everything, or at least going into it. And I never know if you're going to be like, "Oh yeah, I loved it," or this was too much.
Because
you're always keeping me on my toes.
I know. I mean, this proved that there was something more to it by the end. To me, that's the big thing, or at least the thing that it's playing with. Even though that you could interpret it that there isn't anything, right? That she did just say gibberish, and there's nothing on the other side of death, and this was all for nothing. That is what I find interesting about this, because that is always the thing about like torture porn, that it's always this useless exercise, and it's just excess, and it's just gross for the sake of being gross. This is an interesting sort of back and forth about that, where it's like, what if there is some crazy reason why we would do something like that? Why we go through suffering in general, right? And yeah, Last Temptation of Christ is pretty apt, like comparison, as it is like they're trying to make
Passion of Christ.
Passion of Christ. Yeah,
Right.
Passion of Christ. They're trying to make a Christ basically through her. Like someone who goes through this horrible event in order to get to the other side.
I wish there was a little coda where she, you know, they roll back the boulder from the tomb, you know, and she walks out like at the end of Passion.
She comes out of the facility. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, that point is well taken, I think, and maybe that's why this movie keeps getting held up as the ultimate example of this genre, is because in a way it's about the torture and the suffering instead of just foregrounding it for the sake of it. So
I do agree that it's wild and flailing and like kind of insane. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, so where do you land with this then, Zach? Because I don't know. I rated this low enough on Letterboxd and found enough of it like tedious that I would say for the purposes of this podcast that I would unwatch it. But where do you land qualitatively, Zach?
I think this is where I have the upper hand of it not being my podcast, so I can just be so middle of the road on it and like it's a cop out. But that seems lame and I don't want to do that. I don't want to say I would unwatch it. I feel like saying I've seen it can put me at the cool kids table if I have to be, but also, you know, I can tell like the average person that it's not, you know, gonna ruin their lives if they do or don't see it. You know, it's a nice balance for me. I don't think it was great. I think I rated it like a 3 on Letterboxd. There was only maybe 5 minutes it made me feel gross, where I was anticipating I was going to spend 2 hours trying to peel my own eyeballs out. And yeah, it's a movie.
Damn it. That's all I was trying to say. It's a movie.
Yeah, I would say it actually it's not nearly as unwatchable as you would think, let alone for it being on this podcast.
Right.
I just didn't like it, and that's why I was on that side.
Yeah, it really isn't.
It lives in infamy with so many people, you know, like it's considered like this nearly taboo thing to so many people, but really it's just, there's a lot of plot for a movie that should just be gross, grimy torture, and then there's not a lot of actual torture for a movie that should have so much fucking
That's because it's a science fiction movie.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, that is weird. I mean, even at the time, like, would it have been that gross? Like, it's like 2008, like Hostel was out, right?
I was gonna say, that's the thing, is it's like it compared to some of the other things that were already out, you know, like it was doing things better than Saw, it was doing things better than Hostel, but overall it doesn't necessarily mean it's a great movie.
Oh yeah, I guess I just mean like, would it have been more shocking back then? I don't even think so.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember anyone I knew, you know, like in 2008 I was 13, so I don't remember anyone like talking about this movie. It wasn't until later that I actually heard anything about it. But comparing it to other things from that time, I don't personally think it really did anything too shocking.
Yeah, maybe it's just the ideas or the way that it does narrow down to just like a half-hour torture scene, even if it's not that hard to watch, and that it goes somewhere that is, you know, bleak and ends like that, and maybe deals with those ideas more than you know, Saw does, which is more like a fun house ride. Like this isn't fun. Well, I don't know. The early parts is the twists, I guess. There's kind of a thrill to that, but once they get down in the dungeon, there's no fun there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it also kind of, it hits that same thing that we just talked about with High Tension, and then you mentioning Saw, and even Hostel again. I don't know if there's any like actual rewatchability for this one. Like, have you seen it more than once, either of you, or Tony as well?
I think this is my second time, but it was many years ago that I watched it, and So there were things that I didn't remember, but I do think it's so dependent on the twists that I could see that being that being an issue. It's not like Psycho where you can just bask in the movie before it pivots because it's so good.
Exactly. Like the first time I Saw, I was like, "Yep, that was pretty cool." Okay, but every time after it, I'm like, "Oh no, this movie actually kind of sucks." Like once you lose it, I don't think it has enough to balance itself.
I guess I'm curious about a rewatch because it's all about misdirection and twist after twist. So I'm curious about like now that I know what it is, being able to follow the main thread through the whole thing, which
Right. Yeah, and I will admit I could at least do a second viewing and do something like that, but I don't know if it's, like High Tension while we ripped on it, it's fun to me, so I can at least say, I watched it 10
more
times
fun.
and after the second time it was my own enjoyment. Where this, I'm like, I don't think there's anything actually fun. The kitchen scene, it's done well because it feels almost like a John Woo movie compared to like the rest of the movie. But outside of that, I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if I could watch it 3+ times and actually give a shit.
I'd be curious.
Yeah, and it's like if you want to get the real point of the movie, there's really no reason not to start until the last 30-40 minutes.
Exactly.
Well, the point of the first part is just experience. It's just a visceral experience to go through, which I don't think would die down for me knowing what's going on. It would still just be like, oh fuck.
Seth might not have to look away if you watch.
No, I'm still gonna have to look away. I still looked away at all the same parts during High Tension. This time,
I tried, buddy. I tried. I was gunning for you.
But yeah, I don't know. It's a cute little movie. It's just like our cute little podcast where we stick our head into shit and see if we can find gold in there. And sometimes you don't, and you shoot your face.
Yeah. And really, I mean, is of all the examples I can think of that I've seen that fall into this genre, is I guess I'm not really crazy about any of them. Except I would think I just going by memory, I want to say maybe Inside would be my favorite of them. But we'll evaluate that at some point, and I'll see if that still holds up. But maybe it's just in general, I don't know. There's not like one of these that really seems like a masterpiece. Honestly, I think I like Hostel more than any of these, just because there's kind of a sense of humor and there's a theme behind it. Kind of a fear of going into foreign places and the dumb Americans coming through and being oblivious to what's going on, and people paying to torture people, because it's satisfying some need in rich people. That you really got to be in these kind of movies just for that immediate experience, and maybe that doesn't hold up that well to rewatches.
I watch movies to figure out what happens after death. So that's really why I'm here. Okay.
Yeah, me too. The real martyr is the viewer.
That's right.
Sorry.
Damn.
Hey, Tony. How you doing?
That's great.
Well,
Zach, I want to thank you for joining us and bringing your passion for horror and your history with these movies along with you.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun during this conversation, bouncing these ideas off you guys.
Yeah, you know your shit.
I'm honored. That means a lot. Let me know if you want to talk about other fucked up movies.
Absolutely.
It's kind of our thing.
Want to do a whole podcast about fucked up movies.
Is there anything you wanted to plug? I know you were saying there's like a new Grip Hook album.
Yeah. When does this come out?
This episode should air on July 19th, I believe.
Oh yeah, that's fine. So September 21st or 22nd, I don't remember, whatever the last day of summer is, that's when the second Grip Hook album comes out. By this point, I'll have set up a phone number where once a week we'll have a different thing. It's all a summer camp concept, so it's like a summer camp like phone line, and We've got a split with Porcupine, who are a really good Chicago band. Our half's been done since February. I have no idea when that comes out. Let's hope and pray it's fucking July 19th.
That's very cool.
I don't know. I think that's pretty much it. You can find me on all the Insta and the Twitter and all that. I've got a link tree. It's linktree/Zach Butcher. Griphook has a link tree. It's /Griphook Band. You can follow me on Twitter and see my insane tweets. You can follow me on Instagram and see cute pictures of my animals. I'll be your friend on Facebook even. I don't really care. I'm on Letterboxd. I just don't remember what my Letterboxd is, but that's in my link tree.
We will link to Zach for every single website that he has a presence on in the
LinkedIn.
episode description. Yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. Find my Tumblr that I haven't updated since Tumblr got shitty. Link that. Go nuts.
Are we going to get a Martyrs song by the time this episode comes out?
Martyrs, no. To me, Martyrs does not fit in the slasher thing. Griphook, the concept is that it's always the point of view of killers in slasher movies.
Oh, okay.
Giallo also works.
This almost felt like a Giallo movie. I don't know.
But like, I think that the problem that you run into with that is Giallo can be, while maybe incorrectly, but it can be lumped in with people just being like, well, it's made by an Italian person, so it's a Giallo. You know, like Suspiria, someone out there is going to make some insane argument that it's a Giallo movie. And then, you know, at the end, you're like, well, that was kind of supernatural, I guess. But then Opera or maybe even Tenebrae, I could argue harder for those to be. But also, I hate Dario Argento.
Nice.
So I'm not.
He's a hardcore boy. He's in a hardcore band.
It's not even like I'm not.
I know
trying
you're
to
not.
Be like a
I know you're not. It's just I don't run into it very often. You know, that's hard. That's hardcore.
Yeah. I think Argento is kind of a nerd.
You're right.
And he puts himself in this like separate world where he's just like, you know, there's other Italian directors, but I'm the Italian director. And he thinks that everything he's doing is like this gift from God to all of you.
Oh, yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, it's fucking stupid. I think Suspiria is a great example of how to make colors work and how to fuck with sound. But then the rest of the movie, I'm just like, yeah, cool. Witches and ballet. It's great. And I don't know. I don't really like him. I like Fulci a lot. Fulci was a no bullshit man.
Yeah, I just watched like some of his movies for the first time, like last Halloween.
Is he the lesbian vampire guy?
He did not do lesbian vampiros, no. Or Vampiros Lesbos or whatever it's called.
Those look fun.
He did Zombie. He did New York Ripper. He did House by the Cemetery.
He did Don't Torture a Duckling, right? That might be my favorite of one of my favorites of the Giallos that I've watched so far. So I definitely give him credit for that. And I like Suspiria, but I would agree that pretty much everything else that he's done is that Argento has done is strictly very, very pretty to look at and completely tone deaf as far as like storytelling or scripting or any of the other stuff.
Oh yeah, that's why I like them though, because they're so bad shit.
I think Phenomena is a real good example of you don't really know what's going on, and I don't think he knows what's going on. Because Phenomena, you're watching it, and yeah, it's just like, all right, there's this American girl. Okay, the dude that plays Dr. Loomis is here too. She can talk to bugs.
Yes.
And then like the movie ends, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, where did that come from?
See, this is my problem.
I think
this is all I ask for. Is problems.
Giallo in general, though, isn't really known for its like tight scripting. It's very much a style, like first kind of genre, and that's why I think I like the Don't Torture a Duckling, I guess, because I was really actually involved and a little disturbed with the story that was going on, which was kind of a rare treat.
Yeah, Have you seen Torso?
No, I'll put that on the list.
Torso is also it's in that world of like the psychosexual aspect of it. It's super horny, but also like super unnecessarily horny.
Yay.
It's the best kind.
And it's
Like me.
Yeah, it's good. That's right.
Seth is so unnecessarily horny.
Yeah. The man's
It's
going
not
nuts over
necessary.
there with his penis microphone. Yeah. Thanks for letting me do this. I really appreciate it. Listen to my band. We're the best band in all of Ohio. Yeah.
All right.
Love you, Zach.
Definitely
You
better than
rule.
Valley Girls.
Ouch.
Dude, Valley Girls wishes. I love you too. Thank you.
Oh man, could we
Shout out Tony.
could we close out the episode with one of your band's songs, and you won't try to copyright strike our YouTube video? I bet it would actually still get copyright stricken, but
Yeah, you can do whatever you want. I don't give a fuck, man. I support you. Do you want one of the unreleased ones, or do you want one that's already been released?
you don't happen to have a high tension one, do you?
No, High Tension's going to be for album 3. I'm
No,
sorry.
Damn.
That raises some
Yeah,
interesting questions about perspective of the slasher and how to handle that with a movie like High Tension.
Yeah. it
Slasher
sure does.
doesn't know that it's
Yeah.
slasher.
Yeah.
That could be a
We
challenge.
also, I
Could be
don't
a whole
know.
album.
We've got a couple that have kind of how much of it is slasher and how much of it is, like maybe home invasion or this or that, whatever, because I think Angst is a great movie, but Angst as a slasher movie is pretty loose, and I still wrote a song about Angst.
Well, yeah, whatever you think's the most badass one, we'll slap it at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although we do like to pull out songs from the movies when we can, and High
Mhm.
Tension does feature a song by my personal favorite hardcore band, Muse.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, how could I forget that? I fuck, dude. Yeah, that's the car chase scene, right?
No way. I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Or we could
I have a Twilight tattoo and a Twilight poster in my house, so I mean, we could just do a Supermassive Black Hole, and I'd know it was all
Just
for
do a
me.
Muse podcast next time.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, I've only heard those 2 songs. I don't actually know any other Muse songs.
Well, if not, if all that stuff falls through, we can end with the reggae song and the sound of Seth masturbating
That's right. That's
to it.
what I want.
I don't make any sense.
It was already in my notes.
Unwatchables is produced by Tony Scarpitti, hosted by me, Marc Dottavio, and Seth Troyer, with artwork by Micah Kraus. You can find Seth and I on Letterboxd under Marc Dottavio and Sloth Troyer. You can also check us out at unwatchablespod.com for links to our Twitter and Instagram, or support us on Patreon for bonus content and to have a say in what we watch. Thanks for listening.